Right, time now for our focus package. As Italian football enjoys a renaissance thanks to their results, this championship is still facing recurring problems with racism. Although the phenomenon is more prevalent in Eastern European countries, Italy is today the most affected country amongst the big European championships. Well, how does racism manifest itself in Italian football? Our correspondent in Italy, Natalia Mendoza, provides us with some of the answers.
Hi, I'm Natalia Mendoza. I went off the field because I felt it, because I felt it wasn't right for me to be on the field whilst I've been racial abuse. So I went off because I wanted to, because I have the right.
This is one of the recent victims of racism in Italian football. Salim Muntari, a midfielder for Pescara, speaking after having been sanctioned for leaving the pitch during a match where he was the object of racist insults and specifically of fans imitating monkey noises. This incident has relaunched the debate on racism in Italian football. Today, Muntari prefers to remain silent to avoid adding fuel to the fire. But the episode remains on everyone's mind, and his teammates are sympathetic.
I understood his reaction, and I know what it's like because I've already experienced it. It's not easy. It makes you want to stop playing immediately.
The referee could have maybe stopped the game or made an announcement that the game doesn't continue until the abuse is stopped. And it would have been a good opportunity to show that football is bigger than racism and football is for everyone. But the game unfortunately went ahead and our player was punished for protesting.
Following an appeal, the Italian Football Federation has rescinded Muntari's ban. But neither the opposing team nor their supporters have been penalised. And worse still, this type of behaviour is common in the Italian Championship. Throwing bananas, monkey chants, racist banners saying things like Negro team. A phenomenon that doesn't even surprise the fans anymore, like here at the Lazio Stadium, one of the most important teams in the country.
That's how it works here. Sometimes we hear things, but really it's not racism. Come on, it's just teasing with the players. They're just football jokes, it's nothing more.
During this season's Serie A league, a dozen or so racist incidents have been recorded by the judges, none of which have resulted in disciplinary action. Mauro Valeri is a sociologist. He has been following the evolution of this phenomenon for over 20 years. Today, he condemns the permissiveness and lack of rigour of the federation.
In Italy, football institutions have many norms and regulations in place, but no one ever gets in trouble. There are so many prerequisites before getting someone prosecuted that in practice nobody ever gets punished. There is no will to punish, but rather to trivialise this phenomenon.
A phenomenon that does not only affect the teams from the big leagues. These youngsters are players for a semi-amateur team in the suburbs of Naples. Here, more than half of the players come from Africa. Today, they are playing a match in the provincial championship. Moussa comes from Senegal. He's been playing for the club for a year and a half as a midfielder. For him, racial abuse is an unpleasant daily ritual.
It happens often, on the pitch or off the pitch. We hear what people are saying. Often they say things like, "You black piece of crap." And these insults, they're hurtful.
In order to stamp out this violence, the Italian Sports Union has launched a national programme, financed in part by the EU. The objective is to raise awareness.
We're setting up these banners everywhere, but we are aware that sometimes we're welcomed with, let's say, suspicion by certain supporters.
Marco Bruto coordinates the provincial branch of this project. His objective is to record the complaints of players that are victims of racial abuse. Today, he is taking a statement from two players.
Raccontami un attimo l'episodio che è successo l'ultima giornata di campionato e esattamente anche riportami le frasi razziste che sono state dette.
Mi dice nero di merda.
Giocatori avversari o dai tifosi della squadra?
No, le tifosi e come l'avversario.
Each complaint is transferred to the National Anti-Discrimination Bureau and ultimately to the Interior Ministry. This is the first inventory of racial phenomena in Italian amateur football. Nothing like this has been done before in the peninsula. Kofi hopes that it will help to stop the apathy of numerous referees.
If you complain, they give you a yellow card. That's how it is. Every time you complain about a foul or an insult, the referee gives you a yellow card. He doesn't care.
For the time being, 100 or so complaints have been recorded as part of this project. A great step forward. But the fight to eliminate racism from Italian football pitches is far from over.
Well, to talk more about that racism in Italian football, we can cross to David Webber. He's a professor at Warwick University. Mr. Webber, good to have you with us on France 24. Talk us through how big a problem racism is in Italian football.
Well, Italian football clearly, I mean, in your piece alluded to this, is a huge problem that the authorities have really struggled to get to grips with for many years now. And it really reflects in many respects the wider social attitudes towards race and racism. I don't think you can disaggregate football from society at large, in whatever context that is, but particularly within a society where these racialised attitudes are normalised, and as again one of your interviewees suggested, that it's just treated as banter, it's just treated in a very light-hearted fashion, it's simply become accepted. And that presents a huge problem where racism is unable to be dealt with.
Now, I mean, racism is not just an issue in Italian football. There are many different championships which are suffering from this. Are there, though, measures that are being put in place by other countries that you think are lacking when it comes to Italian football?
Well, I think you're absolutely right to suggest that, you know, racism is not simply a blight on Italian football. Racism has been experienced certainly here in England. It's been experienced in other countries across Europe as well. And there are clear variances in terms of the severity of racism and racial abuse that's taken place. We've seen, obviously, with a national level and indeed at a European level, if you look at UEFA's Respect campaign, it's kicking racism out of football. But racism is often framed in a sort of a social responsibility programme. And it's been effective in some ways in sort of trying to shift cultural attitudes towards race and racism.
We heard in that report, Mr. Webber, that some people saying, well, look, Italian officials themselves are actually not doing enough to penalise people when they are found to be making racial insults, etc. Do you think on a larger scale, you touched on UEFA there, the Respect campaign is one thing, but on the whole, is enough being done to stamp out racism within football?
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think at an institutional level, I don't think enough is being done, whether at an Italian level or indeed any other national association. And certainly within UEFA as well. It's not enough to simply say we disagree with race and racism. What we're seeing is a complete lack of political leadership. So we've seen in instances, for example, where UEFA have issued much larger fines for what appear to be trivial offences. For example, viewers may recall Nicholas Bentner, the Danish striker. He was fined somewhere in the region of €80,000 for what was deemed inappropriate sponsorship. You compare that to the way in which the Serbian FA was treated when its fans were found guilty of racial abuse towards England players when Serbia and England's under-21s met a few months after the Bentner incident. They were fined as an association just €65,000. So there's a huge disparity there. we're not seeing the severity of the punishments, and there doesn't seem to be the political will to take seriously and to address and to discipline these instances of racism within the game.
Just a very quick question before we go, Mr. Webber. One young man in the package spoke about players taking the issue into their hands and striking and not going out onto the pitch every time one of these incidents happens. How effective do you think that would be as a measure for footballers?
Well, I think that would have certainly sent out a big message. Because what we want to see here is, because obviously, you look, the package mentioned the case of Sully Muntari. Muntari was sent off, but I would have wanted to see other players, his teammates, actually follow him off the pitch and say, do you know what? OK, they've not abused me, but I'm standing in solidarity with my teammate. I'm standing in solidarity with Sully Muntari. OK, that might come at a cost to me and to the team, but what's more important is the principle. So Muntari shouldn't be left to walk alone off the pitch, but his teammates stand alongside him and say, you know what, enough is enough.
OK, David Webber, you're a professor at Warwick University. On that note of solidarity, thanks for your time this afternoon.